Welcome to Speed City F1. What a fantastic race here in Austin. We're live at Circuit of the Americas in the broadcast booth watching the crowd track invasion right now. Max Verstappen winning a very tight race over Lewis Hamilton by just 2.2 seconds. Wow, this was a fantastic race. And considering how easy Max Verstappen had it in the sprint race all weekend, all year, who would have thought that we would have such a fantastic battle? We had two great battles. We had battles between Max and Lando Norris. We had another fantastic battle between Max and Lewis Hamilton. This is John Massengale. I'm in the booth here at COTA. I'm with Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and Dave O'Neill. I'm going to start with you, Bob. That was quite an exciting race.
It was. It absolutely was. And it, we saw really great teams, the ones that always seem to come to the top of the pile, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, using all of the tools at their disposal, the DRS, teamwork on track, the pit stops, everything, the tire strategy especially, threw everything they had at this, and it was great fun to watch.
It really was. Dave, what'd you think?
I'm still trying to digest it all. There was some brain power used there for sure, and computing power as well. But yeah, I mean the change of strategy in between the race as well, I think was pretty cool to watch. Whether Max had a brake problem or not, I don't know. He was definitely rattled about something.
Yeah. He was not happy.
He wasn't, and.
I don't know how he couldn't. I mean, he's been so dominant, and he only won by 2 seconds.
Yeah, and if you look at the fastest lap, before the second round of pit stops, he wasn't doing anything special on the times. And again, towards the end, as Hamilton was chasing him down, Hamilton had the better of him on the times. They made a good call with that medium tyre for the second part of the race. It was fantastic. And then, of course, the other bit which was disappointing, I guess, for all of us is we were hoping that Lando was going to have his day today, but he just didn't have the tyres. The tyres didn't hold him up all day, so he had to settle for third place.
Well, I don't know which was my favorite line of the broadcast, of the race broadcast, between you, Bob, when Bob said, I wonder if Max is still having fun. Because, as you recall, he was saying it's going to be fun tomorrow because I'm starting in 6. I'll have to race. Well, I think it was a little too close for comfort. Or yours, Jonathan, when you said, when Hamilton was chasing down Max, she said, Norris could win this thing. In other words,
right.
Max and Lewis come
they
together.
wind up piled on top of each other.
And that's what Leclerc was saying on the radio, which was, should we try plan C? And he's like, dude, this could all fall apart and fall into my hands here. Don't bring me in.
Yes.
Yeah, I really think they were thinking of bringing Charles Leclerc in for a set of reds, but he was right. He said, look, it's too late. The time it would take me to pit, 20 seconds and change, and then get those tires up to temp. There just weren't enough laps left for him to accomplish much. But I am, once again, endlessly impressed. Lewis, great job. There's a reason he's a 7-time world champion, 103 victories and 104 poles, and on and on and on. But watching those last couple of laps and the way Verstappen handled himself on the racetrack, first not using DRS to pass the car ahead of him, and then the next time around, coming up behind the Alpha of Zhou Guanyu and using DRS to reopen the gap and put the Alpha between himself and the pursuing Mercedes. It's just brilliant racecraft. We've been talking about it all weekend.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. And the way he was genuinely annoyed by the radio transmissions he was getting. That's fair enough. And okay, maybe it's a little bit of bravado and it's just the heat of the moment. But he was genuinely not happy. But the way he could compartmentalize to also be cool enough to be thinking on those lines of, okay, I don't want to do that. And, and that I think is true genius.
I was going to say, that is not normal human brain activity because you normally get clouded by those emotions and can't think logically and strategically when that's happening.
I was curious as to why Verstappen kept telling the team not to speak to him when braking. And Dave, you might be able to shed some light on this. Was it just because he was concentrating so hard? I'm thinking we always hear drivers say that the beauty of Formula One cars is not the way they go, but the way they stop. And maybe he was just thinking, if I'm going to try to talk to you while I'm braking, negative 5 Gs, I'm not going to be able to get a word out.
Well,
but
you make a very good point there, Bob, is that, maybe he was on the limit and he was concentrating that much to stop the front locking. So there's, he's great, he's brilliant, he's won 3 world championships, but also he has to concentrate. It's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what was happening. He had ultimate concentration on the brakes.
Well, if you remember, before the sprint race, we were saying that for the first time ever, he was being pushed harder than he has been pushed by both McLaren and Mercedes, and to a certain extent Ferrari. So that was a factor. But also, I think physically there is a certain part of the bumpiness of this track and under braking that physically, if you are then given a message right there and then as you go into braking, the car is literally bumping up and down,
right.
Your helmet's bumping up and down, and you're trying to take in information while exactly what you said, trying to not lock up the brakes. So I kind of get it.
Yeah, and you see when Verstappen got out of the car, he went over to his drinks bottle and just started sucking on that thing and kept sucking on it. It was a long day's work. They earned their money today.
Yeah, we've seen the best out of Formula One in that microcosm of that race there.
When's the last time we saw a race that we thought at 2 different points? I wrote down, can Lando win this? And then, can Lewis Hamilton win this?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we can say that.
Yeah, no, it was really a cracking. Formula One's often maligned for not having as much drama perhaps as other motorsports, but once you get the insight from an ex-team manager and also from Chris, who's with it every week, and obviously, Bob, having seen as many races as he has, you really do get a sense of creating stories that you may not even be aware of at times, but that's what was happening today, because there were 6 or 7 different stories happening at the same time.
All right, hey, we've relished in this fantastic race at the front. So I want to look at where Logan Sargeant finished this race, guys. That's incredible, isn't it, Jonathan?
Well, I said, if you remember in the pre-show, that he's got to stay close to Albon.
Yep.
He wasn't in time, but in overall, Williams have got to look at that. James Vowles has got to say, well, he equipped himself well. It wasn't a good start to the weekend. In fact, it was an awful start to the weekend, and it could all have gone and unraveled for any weaker-headed. We've been talking about the muscle that is the brain, and it is the most important part for any racing driver. And he held his together this weekend, and if he can keep doing that from Mexico to Brazil and on to Abu Dhabi, probably one of the one circuits that he will be confident at, we'll see.
1.2 seconds behind his teammate.
Good.
And finishing 12th. I mean, I know he started 16th, but he actually dropped down from there, too. So,
Dave, what would you think? I mean, how would you judge it? You know the situation.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's probably not enough, but go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think he had a solid race.
There you go.
He had a
there
solid
you go.
race. He was, the results a little bit, skewed, I guess. But he's still 12th.
Yeah.
The long and the short of it. So he did a good job. He stayed on. And he got another race under his belt, which makes a huge difference.
Right.
Look at Hamilton. We're watching pictures of Hamilton in the pre-podium and sat completely
splay-legged on the floor. Right.
What are they? What's this room called? The relaxing room or the
chillax?
The green room, chillax.
I thought it was called the listen in, let's see what they say to embarrass themselves room.
Well, it's like
that,
after
the result for Albon, and so that includes Albon's time penalties, I assume.
I think so.
Had
Let's
like 10
double check
seconds
that
worth of time penalties for.
We could also look at Perez. He's still 0.7 of a second off his teammate, fastest lap. Of the race. So the delta's still the same time-wise. From Max to Perez.
But better performance by Perez over the weekend. Something he can take to Mexico.
Yeah, solid. Yeah. Solid performance. He got some good overtakes done as well.
It's always nice when you get your own picture taken by a Spice Girl, isn't it?
Obviously, we're talking about Christian Horner getting his picture taken.
No, I think she was taking a picture of the mechanic, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. They've got a mechanic that's leaving, so maybe that was why.
They were literally just, they look like they're at a party. They're just smiling and laughing and relaxed. There's no stress at all. I guess even winning by a tight margin.
In Miami, the team principals are now the rock stars. Everybody wants a shot of a team principal. I want to get a Toto. I want to get a Christian. I want to get a, Gunter. I want to get a Zach.
you wonder what Jos must be thinking. I mean, his race days are well over, but...
Ka-ching.
Yeah. Well, no, I just think... No, I think it's also just sheer... I mean, when this boy came to life, as it were, he kind of probably said right there and then, I'm going to make this... if this guy wants to race, and I don't know yet, as he's popped out whether he does, but if he shows signs of going karting, I'm going to give him everything I've got. And that's what Jos has done.
Yep, credit him.
We also have to talk about 10th place finisher Tsunoda. They came in, they gambled, they put a set of softs on. Might not have gone well, but they got the extra point, which is really important to them. 2 points, 10th and fastest lap.
Well, they've even got the fastest wheels in the West, as Greg Abbott also on the podium.
Yeah, and what about Tsunoda playing a part in the finish of this race right there at the end? And I don't think he had anything, I don't think he was trying to help Verstappen or hurt Hamilton. It just happened to be where he was, and Hamilton got DRS, and Verstappen got DRS, and Hamilton didn't. That was a big part of this race.
Huge part, yeah.
Did we pick the podium before we ended our pre-race show?
We did not, Bob, but you said it, and I think you picked this, didn't you?
Yeah, I said those three in that order. So
yeah,
pay up.
See, because we didn't officially do it,
right.
then you don't get.
It never happened.
If it's not written down.
Yeah, right.
Wave. This is great. Good moments.
Just running down the list here. So Carlos Sainz in 4th. I mean, a solid race for sure.
Yeah, there's some explaining to do in the Ferrari garage.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc really needs a talking to, I think, and Fred Vasseur just might be the guy to do it.
Well, both ways, yeah.
Elaborate.
I hear your point, which is, it's funny because I'm trying to juxtapose with what you were saying in the race because you were right, which is, hey, he's leading in the championship. Back off. But I also think that Leclerc throughout this season has been just not at has been at odds with every decision they've given him, going, what are you doing?
That's the larger problem. Yeah.
But I agree with you.
It's similar to last year with Sainz.
Yeah.
When he was getting the wrong rubber to green.
Well, whether you like it or not, and I said this to Bob in the commentary, Leclerc probably quite rightly believes he is the team leader of the two Ferraris. But this new management, Vasseur is a very level-headed guy. All he wants is Ferrari to go forward. That's his mission.
Right.
It's not Leclerc's, and he wants to, he wants to have the team just as Hamilton does on his side, and he wants to have the advantage at all times.
This environment is way too cutthroat not to approach it that way.
Yeah,
I mean, you take no prisoners in Formula One.
Yeah, we said he was petulant, but, to a certain extent,
Well, he was irritated. Verstappen was irritated.
Yeah.
There were a lot of irritated drivers out there today.
And again, the compartmentalization. As soon as he got out of the car, cool, calm, collected, nice race, good fun, well done, everyone. Hey, good, good 50th.
Good finish by Pierre Gasly in the Alpine.
Been a good weekend actually for Pierre.
Yeah, and I never did. Do we hear what happened to Ocon's car?
No.
It looked like he took a bashing in the left side pod.
Yeah. And
Dave suggested, he may have snapped a line or broken a radiator or.
Yeah, because both cars were looking quick this weekend, and I thought they might have had a
good pace,
double points finish maybe, but
I think Carlos Sainz maximised his weekend. With the gamble yesterday and the sprint race with the soft tyres. And then today coming in 4th.
Yeah, that's a lot of good work.
So much to talk about. We're watching pictures, obviously, of the podium being held up live. Bobby Epstein can be very proud of another great weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. I felt for him during COVID. I had my COVID first injection here at the circuit. He turned it into a hospital, which was magnificent, to be honest. Got a free COVID shot, got it done. We put 10,000 a day through here, but when I left the circuit, I thought and felt for his whole team that could this now be the ending of it because of pandemic that would put them out of business. Let's face it, and a lot of businesses have gone. And to be running a race circuit where you need people to give you the money that you need to sustain it, hats off to Bobby.
What do you think about the Haas weekend, Dave? I mean, I know when we talked about, I think maybe as early as Thursday, a big upgrade like this comes with a lot of experimentation, right? And they didn't finish really higher than they have been in the last few races, but they've got all this new kit on there. Could this be a foundation for the next few races to move forward?
I think they'll certainly learn something. They left from the pit lane, as we saw. They changed the rear wing, so they put the old style rear wing back on. Mainly a data gathering exercise, but there's nothing to shout about there. They have to go back, and there has to be a proper regroup and find out what's going on.
We are live at Circuit of the Americas after watching the United States Grand Prix. The confetti, the red, white, and blue confetti is blowing past our window right in front of the main grandstand, out our broadcast booth window, and we watched Max Verstappen win, but by only 2 seconds over Lewis Hamilton, followed closely by Lando Norris. It was a fantastic race. This is John Massengill. I'm joined by Jonathan Green, Bob Varsha, and Dave O'Neill, and we'll have Chris Medland joining us as well. Bob, I see you climbed up and looking out the window there.
Well, yeah, there's tens of thousands of people jamming the front straightaway to get a look at the top finishers on the podium. But I'm also watching that confetti. We talked a number of times during the broadcast about the wind changing speed and direction. Right now, it's whipping this confetti around.
Yeah, we saw some cars that looked like that could have been what was happening a little bit out there today.
It was funny. We saw the change in wind from what was it, something like 1.3 and at highest over 6. And you kind of almost corrected me because I was thinking miles per hour, but of course it wasn't. It's kilometers.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, 2.2, Dave, is that right?
2.2.
Yeah, 2.2 kilometers. So, pushing 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
And it was affecting them. You heard him.
Oh, yeah. Well, we talk about, grams affecting the weight of an F1 car. What about a 20-mile-an-hour wind? That's a big deal to a F1 car.
Or even the paint on the back of a wing, maybe even. That's what you're looking at. That's what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and like I said, Chris Medland's with us. He is out in the melee out there, or maybe in the paddock by now. I'm not sure, but he's going to be trying to join us here in a minute.
He's at the airport.
Yeah. Now he's going to get us some interviews and send them in. Oh, there's some folks up there waving the checkered flag. I saw. Maybe they're letting people wave the checkered flag.
Yeah,
there's the Ferrari flag flowing in the wind over there too.
As a bit of a pessimist, I'm always a bit wary about the
crowd.
The crowd invasion. We had it at Monza for many years, and we're having it here, and we always have had it here. But it's always a bit precarious. But I'm glad to see there's quite a few security.
Well-behaved people here.
Yeah, well,
yes.
everybody wants a souvenir, don't they?
Right.
And the way the fandom has been all weekend. I mean, we left, 7:30 in the dark last night, and there were hundreds of people waiting for an autograph or just a glimpse of a driver leaving the track.
Mm-hmm. Just give him a wave.
Well, let me just run down the winning order. It's Max Verstappen, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc down in 6th, George Russell, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda in the final points position. Also had the fastest lap today, right there at the end. Alexander Albon, American Logan Sargeant finishing 12th. Nico Hulkenberg in the Haas finishing 13th, followed by Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, and the cars that did not finish, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, and Esteban Ocon. And Alonso, what was his...
He said that he had suspension failure, which was interesting because the team came back and said, we're not seeing it. So, and Alonso doesn't sort of just say something out of the heck of it.
Yeah.
So there was something wrong with that Aston Martin, and they retired it, obviously. I don't know. You probably heard the radio too, but it was a strange one. But for a while he looked competitive, but 49 laps in,
He has been known to park it.
Yeah, he has been known to park it.
But they did change.
That's when he's in the GP2 Honda, though.
Oh, that's true, yeah. They did have some mechanical changes before the race, so I don't know. Just guessing, could have been something that failed from that.
Well, Aston Martin have certainly done the favour that they wanted to. And let's face it, Alonso said this is really a testing session. They went out on two different setups of cars, but kept the setup overall the same so that they could compare the upgrades. And that's maybe something that will help them next week.
Yeah, suspension damage, we hear, is what eventually put Alonso in the garage. And, sometimes even the negatives can give you some direction for positives in the season to come.
Great atmosphere here. We're watching the window. We're right down eye-level view looking out over turn 20 and the podium.
It's fascinating.
It's a fascinating view.
Yeah.
I wish you could all see it, because it really is fascinating to see this growth of humanity falling onto the track at the end of the race, just as they do at Monza, and it's a great spectacle.
And just to give you a bit of insight is that, while everyone's celebrating out there, heading down back into town, the teams now start to dismantle the garages,
right,
and the cars in fact come apart. So the only thing that will be left in one bit is the chassis. They'll change all the fuel filters in the fuel tank. The engines come off, the gearboxes come off, all the suspension comes off, and then the car will go to the next race, which is Mexico, and they'll build it up back on the Tuesday and the Wednesday.
No fear for Ferrari this weekend of the problems they had at Qatar with the fuel leak.
No, I think there was a worry.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't the time to make the change, but I'm sure that will probably come for Mexico.
Now, Dave, this is the first, and I believe only, triple header. USA, Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Brazil. The cars will be broken down. And they'll go into the belly of the airplane. Will they take apart the garage, or will there be another garage setup in Mexico right now for them to move right into?
So they have what they call traveling sea freight sets. So when you're in Europe, you take the trucks,
right?
Everything. So you have one set for the 8 races in Europe. But for the flyaways, you have an America's set. And these garages that you see here on the TV today, they'll be taken down, and this set will go on to Vegas. But there's someone in Mexico currently setting up, which was a week ago. So literally last Sunday they started setting up in Mexico. So that sea freight set will go there. All the garage boarding will go up. All the catering unit will be put together, so they can have food as soon as they arrive at the track.
Is there a standardized garage size, or do you need to measure all the garages all over the world to make sure you have the appropriate setup?
Good question.
You actually have to measure every single garage. And not only that, the height of it. So the old Brazilian garages were very low. Cota and also
New Silverstone.
Yeah, Cota's one of the smallest garages on the circuit.
Really?
Really? Huh.
That's because Kevin wanted 34.
Yeah, and then you have Silverstone, which is pretty big, and then of course Monaco, you have an upstairs.
Right.
So there's a different logistics challenge to each race, which was quite interesting. And also the pit walls as well. Not every pit wall is the same. So you have Spa. If you're down the other end, you have to lift it the perch is 10 foot off the ground. But you have your trucks there. So yeah, every circuit is different.
Wow. All that coordination just to take the show on the road.
It really is nuts.
You kind of build up a database. So what they'll do is they'll take measurements of the garage, and then once you're established. So for Andretti, when they come in, they'll have to go through all of these issues.
Right.
So it's not just I got my license.
Right.
Then you start with all the problems and the job list you have to tick off from that point.
I read something somewhere about how Qatar 2 weeks ago was one of the most problematic races on the calendar because of the customs protocols and procedures and so forth. And I can remember the day when you needed a manifest of every nut and bolt and roll of Scotch tape and everything else you brought in and what you took out.
Yeah.
Pretty much come back in Europe. When the UK left Europe, you have to do that now. So you produce a carnet of every nut and bolt and Scotch tape that has to go across the border. I don't know if anyone's checked it yet, but you have to do it. So it's probably quite a lot of cut and paste. And then, of course, it's temporary import. So everything here is temporary imported. Now, with huge events like this, the government help on fast forwarding all the freight in, because the freight comes in that came from Qatar on 6 jumbos. So most teams have 35 tons, and then you have Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull. They're up in the 40, 50, 60 ton range.
Is that still done by that Australian company? That same company that's been doing it for decades?
Yeah, well, I think now DHL own the planes, but there is once it's deloaded from the plane, and then it's trucked from the airport to here. It's the Australian company, Gibson, I think it's called.
Gibson.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
it.
right.
I sat down and did an interview with that guy
By the way,
about
they don't just
10
do
years
Formula
ago.
1, they do V8s, they do
MotoGP?
racing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Those are the folks you want, the ones who do it a lot.
Yeah,
I've done a feature on them, and they are absolutely meticulous. And of course, it's 2 hours for the motorcycles from Melbourne compared to Albert Park.
Hey, Jonathan, there's maybe people joining us just now and may have missed. We did quite a bit of recap earlier, but what were your favorite stories of the race?
Well, first hope for McLaren and the brilliant start that Lando made, because it was really interesting. He was asked earlier today, had he watched the sprint race and was he ready to get his elbows out? And he said, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I watched it very closely last night. I enjoyed it. And you could tell that as soon as the start of the race happened, he felt like he had it. And, you know, as he was building that lead, the confidence began to grow and grow that this could be his day. It was his 100th Grand Prix. He'd been playing down the fact that McLaren have gone from strength to strength in the last few races, and I do think that they're going to be, they're going to be a factor in these last 4, and it's just a great turnaround story. I think I think we're going to get to the end of the season and go, how did McLaren turn around what was, in their words, a car that wasn't ever going to be
Well, it was a
competitive?
catastrophe of a season at the beginning. I mean, and I wrote down in my notes, I think we were at about lap 20.
Yeah.
And I said, can Lando win this?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and at the beginning of the season, and we all know this, that the journalists will ask the questions, and they'll play down, they'll kind of play games with each other about how much competitiveness they have, but the times don't lie at the tests in Bahrain, and they just weren't anywhere.
And, of course, the Lewis Hamilton story, him chasing down Max at the end. That was amazing.
Well, like I said, what impressed me about that race was that we had upwards of 6 different stories all happening and unfolding and all changing at the same time, which made it so exciting.
Did Lewis go to second? Did he overtake Perez with the points he scored this week?
That's a good question. Let's see if I have internet.
He was 28 points in front, I think, Perez.
So no,
I think it was 23 after the sprint.
So I doubt it, because Perez scored points as well, remember.
But it's a lot closer. 18 points for Lewis, and
Yeah, it's 19 points right now. Now, I'm assuming.
Unless it's not. No, I don't think that's been updated.
That's not been updated.
No, it's
You're
not
right.
been updated.
You're right.
Yeah, they don't update it until everything's officially in, because somebody could get a penalty, obviously. So,
Yep.
well, yeah, but you're right. It's worth thinking about and worth looking at tonight, as well as looking at the points for the constructors, because there are some good battles to go in the constructors right now.
Yeah, and take a look at the constructors too, because I don't think either one's been updated, but 358 for Mercedes, 327 for Ferrari. That's the one we're really watching, because that's the closest one. And then it's down to 239 to McLaren, 232. That's just as actually closer. Yeah, so 7 points between McLaren and Aston Martin. And, of course, back down to 96 points for Alpine. But yeah, amazing weekend, really. I mean, one of my favorite things is, I've said it a couple times already, but the fact that we had the girls' F1 Academy, the young women, the historics, and
seeing the great old Formula One cars of the past.
Yeah, that was really, it was kind of cool watching them go into the fog this morning, wasn't it? I was like, are they sure they want to drive in this fog? And then, of course, we had the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup. That was really cool to watch that. That was amazing to me, watching those cars. How many cars did we see with flying, all 4 wheels off the ground, bouncing over curbs, ramming into each other? Dogs and cats living together.
And also a local story. Great.
Riley
Dickinson
Dickinson
on the undercard, but great to see Riley Dickinson doing so well.
Double win.
Yeah.
That kid is something.
All right, well, let's squeeze a quick break in, and we'll watch for some news from Chris, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back. We're still live at Circuit of the Americas, watching the huge crowds out in front of the main grandstands and the front straightaway. And we've got some helicopters going around. This is John Maskill, Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and Dave O'Neill. And Chris Medland's out getting us some interviews in the midst of that crowd. And we got to see Max Verstappen have a battle today. It was nice, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah, it definitely was. He was pressed, and you could tell it in his voice and the way he ran his race. But when it mattered, he was his usual brilliant self. He knew how to keep the charging Lewis Hamilton behind him. He dealt with Lando Norris before that. Had to work his way up from 6th on the grid. Took him longer than normal. I mean, it was halfway through the race before he
28th lap
made it to the point. But in the end, he got it done, and was using his head. He sounded frantic on the radio when he was complaining about the brakes being so bad. And then the team trying to talk to him when he was trying to deal with the brakes being so bad. But he managed to pull himself together and focus and do what he needed to do, including some clever moves with DRS, not using it one time and then using it the next lap to come through. I mean, the final margin doesn't tell you much about how close that really was. I mean, it's 2.2 seconds, I think, margin of victory.
Yep.
But at one point, it was like 1.2 seconds. And
for a very brief moment, yeah.
Certainly Chris Medland made it sound as though he was going to get him. I'm not sure I believed it at the time, but it sure did make it exciting.
Well, had that played out slightly different and Hamilton gotten that DRS from Tsunoda instead of Max, that could have easily brought it close to a battle like that.
Yeah.
But, hey, Dave O'Neill, I want to you about George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes drivers. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, George Russell outscored Lewis Hamilton, but this year, Lewis looks like his old self, especially today, and he's at 219 points, and George Russell's down in several places. He's, third in the championship. George Russell's down in 8th at 139 points, a massive difference. And we have seen, that Lewis Hamilton, to me, clearly still has. I don't know if he's dropped off his skills at all. And George Russell doesn't look to be. I mean, at one point, George Russell to me was like the best up and comer, but this was a shining example of how Lewis has still got it for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And he is one of the few athletes in the world. He was joking about having a text from Michael Jordan, and I do think he takes his cues from some of the greats. He sees himself and has managed to become in his own sport the greatest, and maintaining that as Jordan, one of his heroes, or Brady, or whoever you want to be. It's a harder game at plus 40 stroke late 30s to maintain it. It's one thing at 22, you dive in, you dive out, and you're fresh as a daisy the next day. It's what you're doing in your later ages, and he's doing it.
Dave, I was going to ask you too. What do you think about both of those scenarios? Hamilton still's got it, and the fact that Russell's so far off from where he was last year.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that before you came up with the question, and I don't think Lewis has ever stopped trying. There's scenarios where it's not worth it. I know
it kind of felt like it, didn't it? Yeah.
Not that he'd give up. It's just like when you're that far down, he's done what he can. And if he pushed any harder, would he get another point? Probably not. But he's definitely stood up to it this year. We can see, with the points we're at, and he can push. Not only that, he can look after the tyres. And what we've seen from this weekend is he was a master at looking after the tyres, and the gap was very close. Verstappen was lucky with the traffic that came up in front of him. Like Chris said, it was down to 1.2. That would have put very, very close, to the DRS window, and then it would have been a different story. Again, the same old scenario, one more lap needed.
I think two things really stand out to me for Lewis's sort of longevity was COVID, the loss of the 21 championship where he went off social media for 6 months. He didn't speak to anybody, literally, or, you know, in terms of radio silence. And then Alonso and his choice to carry on and go to Aston Martin, make a huge decision. And I think all of those things may have had, I may be wrong, but had a factor on how Hamilton viewed carrying on.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got his eyes open as he looks around at his realm, does Lewis. And I think Fernando Alonso, as Jonathan said, is a big inspiration. I mean, Lewis told a crowd in a live interview this weekend he might be around for another 5 years.
Yeah, he did.
After seeing him this year,
yeah,
I could see
he's
that.
What, 38 now? 5 years from now, he'd be right around Fernando's age. Yep. But aside from Lewis, I mean, Lewis is a known quantity. We know what he can do. We know what he's done. He's one of those just, generational talents. Maybe the best of all time. Who can say?
Could have been 10 times world champion.
Right. Yeah. Focusing on George Russell, maybe we were all a little persuaded when he hopped in for Lewis, when Lewis had COVID in Bahrain that time, and Russell damn near won the race and should have won
on
it.
The wrong tires.
The team had a lousy pit stop, and it took him out of the lead, and he wound up not winning that race. So I think everybody maybe thought maybe the expectations just got too high for what Russell could do. Since then, he's been competitive with Lewis on occasion, beaten him on occasion, but he's always been deferential to Lewis. And a weekend like this, I think, shows maybe more of who George Russell really is. And that's a young guy with a lot of talent, but a lot to learn.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
We got an interview from Chris Medland. He has caught up with our young American, Logan Sargeant. So let's hear from Logan right now.
Fighting through the crowds, and it's going to be a right fight down the whole paddock here, Logan. But
it's like the race.
Well, how was it?
Yeah, it was. It was a battle from start to finish. But what a race, honestly. Great turnaround from yesterday. I think that's the most important. It hasn't been an easy weekend, but a really good Sunday is a positive momentum boost. And I gave it everything, every single lap, and had some great battles along the way.
I mean, you're classified 1.2 seconds behind your teammate Alex. There's a chance he gets a penalty that moves you ahead of that. As it stands, Lance Stroll's actually under investigation as well, but I don't think you'll get a penalty that'll move you into 10th. But just how pleased are you to be able to show that level of performance over a full race distance compared to your teammate when, let's be honest, the pressure's been on recently?
The pressure is on, and as I said, it hasn't been an easy weekend. There's no hiding that. I think the positive is that the previous 3-4 rounds, the quality pace has been good. Here it hasn't been as easy with the balance of the car on Friday and Saturday, but we turned it around. We worked hard. We showed good race pace, so we'll find that quality performance in Mexico, and we'll try and keep this up. But
how proud are you to perform like this at this race? Because I know Miami's your home race, but the size of the crowd here and the interest and the people that are here, it's like you're under the microscope, aren't you?
Well, in the end of the day, this is the United States Grand Prix, and from a home race perspective, this one's special. That entire run up to turn one is something you don't experience at most races, and to even have those battles, into turn one in front of the home crowd is special. So I did my best. Hopefully it was noticed, and neat.
Gonna let yourself enjoy it tonight, or is it straight on to Mexico?
I'm going home. I'm going home to Florida, and that's gonna be nice. See my dog, see my family. Shouldn't have put my dog first, but
I do the same.
So that's going to be nice. Get 2 days on the water in Florida, back to what I love. One of my favorite things to do in life. Best way for me to recharge and come back firing.
Oh, well done today. Thank you.
I tweeted that. I said he needed this, and actually I just tweeted it when he passed Kevin Magnussen. But, man, did he sound like the shoulders, the weight off of his shoulders? I know this is not a breakthrough. If he had finished ahead of Albon, that would have been a much bigger deal. But the fact that he finished, 1.2 seconds behind him, the way he sounded, it was really amazing.
Yeah, 4 key words there for me. Positive momentum, and I hope it was noticed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Big weekend for him. Ow! Damn lawyers.
So Bob counting the words.
No question about it. It was a big weekend for him.
And a good idea to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
see his dog.
Thinking of his dog was an absolute Freudian slip.
You know, he if he does this 4 more times this year, I still don't know if that's enough. But Dave, I saw you listening. I was actually watching you closely because I don't know if you probably do this, but there's so much you can read into these drivers, you know, watching them and listening to them. Do you think that he could have made a little bit of a leap? Because, you know, if you're stressed out and worried, you can't do whatever your job is. No. You can't do it well.
No, you can't.
And
I think he's turned the corner. You know, when he was speaking, you know, we've heard him in lots of interviews before, and he was crushed in them. You know?
Yeah.
He was looking for words. He was looking, you know, he wasn't concentrating. And again, you know, interviews probably the worst thing you have to do when you've got some bad news to come out with. But he fought that interview. You know, he fought it. He gave himself some praise. And you know, I did speak to one of his engineers and asked, you know, is it over? You know, has he got a chance? And they said that you know, James has definitely got a wide love for him. You know,
you can hear that when we talk to James. Yeah,
he's definitely he's positive about him, and you know, the car hasn't been brilliant either. You know, so I mean, Albon's taken advantage of situations. He's also, you know, had a good bit of luck as well in some of the races he's been in that he has results in, and unfortunately, you know, Logan hasn't put himself there, which typically comes from qualifying. So
yeah,
I'm going to correct myself on what I said yesterday about who are you going to replace him with. I woke up this morning, I was on the way here, and I thought, Mercedes.
We missed somebody, didn't we?
Stoffel Van Dorn.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not that, but if it doesn't work out for Sargeant, there is a Mercedes driver capable of stepping into that seat and being a good racing driver that isn't racing at the moment.
He was in and out of a few motorhomes this weekend.
He certainly was, and he was, you know, he was on the headphones again. He's here. And I don't know, you've been close quarters with him probably more than anybody else.
Yeah, and he has a contract with Formula E, with Roger Penske's son's team, Jay Penske's squad. But, I mean, you know, Formula One is what it is. I'm sure whatever his contract is, it allows him to break away if he gets a Formula One seat. Yeah, and he's an impressive guy. He's not a Verstappen. He's not a Hamilton.
Yeah.
He won his Formula E championship, I think I'm correct in saying, without winning a race. He may have won one.
Wow.
But, you know, he was consistent. And, you know, he was with the original Mercedes EQ team in Formula E and kept hammering out the results and wound up as a world champion.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get a break in. And when we come back, we are going to hear from Zak Brown, and we're also going to hear from the fastest lap point winner after this.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas in my hometown of Austin, Texas. We are basking in the glow of a fantastic United States Grand Prix here at COTA. Another one. You know, guys, COTA, I saw some comments from Bobby Epstein this week. I think they were in the local newspaper. Kevin Lytle from the Statesman, I think, had this one. And he was talking about how that we needed Miami and Vegas to show what we had here in Austin. Isn't that a good?
It's great, and that's clever too. That's a good way of putting it.
It's a it's almost a backhanded compliment to yourself. Yeah.
But he's right, and I agree with him. This is the one, this is the festival, this is the music, this is the atmosphere, and frankly, it's all to do with the viewing. You couldn't see what we could see here at Miami. And Vegas, don't ask me where you're going to look in Vegas. I wouldn't, unless I'm looking at a monitor, I ain't going outside. And I don't mean that flippantly. It'll probably be a great race, televisually. But when you think about crowd and enjoying it, that's why the crowds come to Silverstone, and Silverstone doesn't have anywhere near the purchase that this has. So creating a festival is the key, and Silverstone, I remember Bobby and his team went many times to Silverstone before 2012 and learned a lot. They relied on the management at Silverstone. Silverstone came here to have a look and see what they were doing. But the topological nature of this circuit helps the viewing. It's the best place to watch.
For sure. That turn one.
Visually and topologically.
I heard both of those too, Bob. I like that.
It's getting close to 6 o'clock. I can't keep it up.
No, kudos, my man.
I like them.
Awesome.
I was thinking televisually. I've never heard that, but I think it sounds like a word, so we're going to give it to you.
It's all about communications. We know what he meant.
All right, we're going to move on because we've got an interview that Chris Medland just did with the man at McLaren, Zak Brown.
Zak Brown, we spoke on the grid about can you win this? And you were like, well, it'll be tough to beat Max, but maybe. And then you see that start from Lando, straight into the lead and disappearing into the distance. And did you start to believe even more then?
I thought it was going to be pretty tough. I mean, Lando drove great. Oscar drove great. Unfortunately, he had damage from when Alpine went into the side of him. Otherwise, I think we would have had two cars strong in the points. But great to see Lando lead, drove great. Team was, as always, great with the pit stops, so we're getting closer.
Well, another podium as well. You can't stop getting those. I mean, you're going to have to expand the trophy cabinet at the MTC, but how do you bridge that final gap? Is it going to need the winter, or do you think you can maybe, with this performance, take advantage of a chance this year?
I think we're all pretty much racing the balance of the year with what we've got, so I think realistically, short of someone slipping on a banana peel, it's going to be pretty hard to beat Max in a straight-up fight, but we're going to give it a go. We got 4 more chances at it, but I think realistically it's going to take a winter of some more development to close the gap.
Now, when we spoke in Bahrain during testing, you said, okay, we don't look in good shape, but we want to end the year with the 4th fastest car. We probably won't be able to get to 4th by that point, but we can have the 4th fastest car. We stand here now, you're into 4th. You've got the 2nd or 3rd fastest car on the grid. Can you believe the turnaround your team has produced this year?
No, the team's just done an unbelievable job. All the men and women have worked so hard at McLaren, so proud of them. To see this turnaround is amazing. I've never seen anything like it before, so it certainly gives us a lot of confidence that everyone back at the factory and here at the track know what they're doing, and they're pretty excited about next year. So hopefully we'll finish strong with another 4 and start again.
And just finally, question I've got to ask, why does Pato never get to drive in Mexico?
That's a good question. He asks us that one all the time. Obviously, you use your free practice ones when you think it strategically makes the most sense. So as much fun as it would be to have Pato going around in Mexico, it makes more sense for us to do it in Abu Dhabi. And also, he's got the young driver test afterwards.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, and well done today.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah. We had Pato on the Wheel to Wheel show. He is such an interesting...
Oh, he's great. And he's good value, isn't he?
Well, he's good value because he does not have the filter. He's just... And, you know, when you reach that level of confidence, you just... That filter goes away, and you can just say whatever you want.
Yeah. He's definitely unfettered and confident
unfettered,
as all hell.
Yeah. Well,
doing it again.
Well, Zak Brown referred to the banana peel. The banana peel today was almost our next guest because the fastest lap winner of the race was Yuki Tsunoda. Let's hear from him.
Yuki, just speaking there to the head of Ferrari Trento, who hand out bottles of very nice wine. Were you getting one for that amazing performance at the end there?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully one day I would love definitely to, drink that Ferrari champagne right after the race. But yeah, he's a good friend, and I actually went for tour for their factory, and it was pretty amazing what I saw there. It's hard to describe it, but yeah, one of the probably cool experience I did in the second half.
Well, that final lap, though, today must have been a pretty cool experience as well. Bolting on the soft tyres late on, which is a bit of a gamble, and then going and getting the fastest lap.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, first of all, when I got called that you have to box, I got heart attack because I thought it's the first engine issue or whatever. But yeah, they said we go for fastest lap. It was not easy. I had extra pressure on top of it, and it's first time experience that we're going for fastest lap in the end. But yeah, I had a bit of feeling, but at the same time I enjoyed that so much, that lap with the fresh tyre.
Well, that doubled your points return as well. 2 points finishing 10th. Just how pleased are you with your performance this weekend? And I guess after a tough day yesterday, really nailing it today.
Yeah, it was not easy also for today. And yesterday we didn't able to maximize our package and performance, so it was frustration day. But at the same time we able to nail the points and extra points from the fastest lap. We're definitely pleased about it, and well done to the team. Without their effort, we couldn't be this position. So yeah, really happy with it.
Well done, congratulations.
Great job today by Yuki Tsunoda. There's been a lot of focus on the other side of the garage, but I have a question for you. I was smiling just listening to him, and I noticed you were too, just grinning, and I'm like, what is it about him that is just kind of appealing or something?
Well, what was going on in my mind is I've known a lot of Japanese drivers, and I lived in Asia for a long time, and I love the culture. I've been a big fan of Sato, and why I smiled was he's got the makings, and I know his personality. He came to Toyota and took on Lawson head to head.
Toyota Racing Series.
Yeah. And we got to know him, and you do get to know drivers over 6 weeks. He's a great, fun guy to be with. We could tell then that he was rough around the edges and that he needed work. His wasn't there even at Formula 3 level, and he was quick. But today, I think, just proved what you can do with a real strong head, because, he's had Ricciardo coming into the team. He dispensed with De Vries, no problem. Then Lawson came in, and they're mates. They shared an apartment in, and like I said, since that time, shared an apartment coming into Milton Keynes. He wasn't showing good signs at Milton Keynes either, getting late night food and doing all the wrong things that the Brits do, because he hated it there, hated the food. They got him into Italy, and he's just turning around, and I hope for him that he'll be the next Sato, because he's got that affability that few Japanese on the world stage are able to pull off.
Yeah, and it's a little bit ironic to think that Tsunoda wound up with the bonus point for fast lap because he was in the top 10. Actually, his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, bolted on the softs at the end and had a quicker lap, but he wasn't in the top 10, and by rule, that means you don't get the point.
Yeah, but it's good news for AlphaTauri, for both of them, actually.
Absolutely.
Good confidence builder for both of them.
I honestly thought we would see more of that more teams would grab for the red tire if they had one.
Yeah, good point.
Because several teams had kind of run themselves out of the softest compound.
But, we started the season off saying who's the worst team in Formula One, and the truth is AlphaTauri now, and it probably will play out that way. But here they are getting the fastest lap. Now, with all due respect, Marussia wouldn't have done that. Caterham wouldn't have done that. HRT wouldn't have done that if the rules were the same, because they just weren't that close. Yeah. That's the difference between modern Formula One and just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going to do a quick message to our producer because our chat just went down. Casey, you gave me a message. Do we have another? We have a couple of interviews. Let's see how much time we got. Let's hear from Christian Horner because Chris Medland just caught up with him.
I'm just photobombing Christian Horner here in the paddock. But Christian, we spoke yesterday and you said Lando Norris you thought would be your biggest threat today. I thought the same watching the first stint, but were you surprised at how close that got with Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think strategically they got themselves sort of halfway between a one-stop and a two-stop, and strategically we were very sharp today, and I think we got it right. And Max managed the issues that he had, and and drove another very, very strong race to get his 50th victory of the year, 50th victory of his career. So a remarkable performance.
I mean, he has been that strong. It could have been 50 in a year, but
it won't be long before Stefano puts 50 races in a year at this rate. So.
Yeah, we're all getting ready for that. Triple header, here we come. But hopefully you get to celebrate this latest victory tonight. How big were the issues, though, that he was managing? Because we heard a lot on radio about the brakes.
Yeah, they were big enough that they were causing him an issue. So, yeah, I think he did a good job. He kept his head and he managed the situation really well.
And positive signs from Checo this weekend?
Yeah, definitely a good recovery from Checo, and I think that'll give him a lot of confidence going into his home Grand Prix. So, a very strong race by him.
How tough's that going to be for him, though, that week? I mean, this must be huge for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive 3 weeks for us, and just one by one for us to get another victory. It's remarkable that this season we've only lost one race, and here we are. At the back end of October. It's been the most amazing team performance.
Just finally, why the jeans for everyone today?
So we're wearing jeans in honor of Dietrich, who passed away sadly 12 months ago, and he was the reason that we're all here. We only ever saw him in a pair of jeans, so it's just tipping our hat to him to honor him 12 months after his passing, and he was the founder and inspiration behind the team.
Well, next time, can we make sure pulls aren't so tight?
Yes, they are a little dodgy, those ones.
Well done, thank you.
Great interview.
God,
they get on well, those two.
Has it been a year since Dietrich Mateschitz, the owner of Red Bull, passed away?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a question for Dave. I just went on about how it's a great perch place for the fans and the drivers love the circuit. But also, just thinking about today, when we go to a circuit, we kind of go, it's definitely a two-stop, or you can possibly do that. But here, you can play out strategies while the race is on. We saw it today, and I think that's another factor here that makes this place such a great place to go racing. But you can change on the fly, and you heard Horner say it there. We thought we might do this, we might do that, but we didn't know the answer halfway through the race as to what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they all have plans. They run hundreds of thousands of simulations every time they get another bit of data, so it starts off from the 15 laps in FP1 that they did, so they start putting all the numbers in the computer and running the simulations, and then once they run another set of tyres, they have another load of data to put in and try and extrapolate out and find out what they're going to do. But I think the key to all of this is the temperature. So it's the temperature and the bumps. We talk about the bumps, and it says it's kind of much of a nothing really, but it's such a big one, and I think that's what Max was struggling with. Christian said he was managing his issues, and I can only imagine that it was the bump in and stopping the front tyres locking. But going back to the strategy one, we saw the temperature change, and that of course makes a difference in the length of the stint you can do with the tyre you've chosen to either start with or go into the second period of the racing, and then that's when you can change the strategy. That's when we hear them talking about, shall we go to plan B or should we go to plan C? And those are the areas you have to cover.
So with all that data, and that's just crazy to think about all the data they get. Right now, we only go out to the thousandth of a second. Are we going to go to a 10,000th of a second? Are we going to start needing that because of all these? But hey, we got to squeeze a break in. But when we come back, we have Ferrari boss Frédéric Vasseur. We'll be back right after these messages.
I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
You know, Chris Medland has been out on the grid getting all these interviews, and he's joined us in the booth. And one of the common themes is everybody says, I want to thank everybody back at the factory. Well, I want to take the chance to do that now. I want to thank all the people back at the Speed City factory. That's Casey.
Yep.
Oh, no! Oh, mayhem!
Assemble the entire employee force.
So, yes,
Have you given everybody a bonus?
That's right. The entire factory is getting a bonus right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Hey, Chris, good job out there, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Oh, is that mic working? Oh, darn it. That mic is not working.
Take a headset.
All right, we're going to do a headset swap. Good job, bud.
Once again, I've stolen Dave O'Neill's headset. Poor guy's been trying to speak all weekend, and I just come in and be like, give me that. Yeah, teamwork indeed. It's been warm out there running around, I can tell you that. It's still very busy. What was cool was to see how many people have stayed post-race.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know if we played it out, but I just managed to grab Anthony Joshua for a little bit. And, yeah, he was still here late, hanging around, seeing people doing photos, talking to team members at Alpine. So really, really cool to just see how engaged people are. And, yeah, outside the window, I guess they're clearing the track, aren't they, after tens of thousands flooded it under the podium.
Yeah, well, let's play Anthony Joshua now. Let's hear it, Casey.
I've got Anthony Joshua here. He's just got a circuit hat, which looks very fetching, and it's Alpine colours, so you can get away with that one. But how was your experience here with Alpine?
Alpine was 10 out of 10. Really good experience. Completely happy. I'll definitely come back if I could. One sec.
Just Coulthard speaking to Anthony Joshua there. Just grabbed him on the other side of the David Coulthard chat, which is it's all good. Very popular man here, AJ. Is this your first time in the paddock? You've been in before, haven't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, on a race day, 100%. Yeah, I've obviously had a behind-the-scenes experience, but on race day, it's been phenomenal.
And you're involved with Alpine now, part of the investment group. I mean, what brought you there? And I mean, I guess today, how happy are you with that investment?
Well, no, God bless. Look, Alpine's a great opportunity. They are bringing me into an environment that I've not been exposed to, not just on a monetary basis. I'm looking at it from a point of view, the access I can gain, the people I'm meeting, the experiences, the team that are behind the drivers. It's a massive organisation, you know, so I'm tapping into a different market and industry. Obviously, we're going to help promote and brand awareness, but also what I can gain from it is all those things I said, is working with the team behind the scenes, the charitable side, my son and my little nephews love F1. So much more to it than just like put some money in and sit back on my home and twiddle my thumbs and wait until it goes up or down. It's more than that, more sentimental than it.
Well, plus you've got your own career to worry about as well, but in and around training, you going to be able to come to more races in future?
Yes, that's the plan, 100%. I would love to. If I could, that would be the plan, yeah.
Thank you for your time, cheers.
Thank you, brother.
Fascinating interview.
That was.
No respect. I used to do the boxing round. I used to be around boxers, and they don't think on those terms, and he does. Very interesting.
We got to go to the next interview, guys, because if you're still with us right now, you get a treat because we got Fred Vasseur.
We have indeed. Keeping Fred Vasseur busy as always on a Sunday evening. And Fred, 4th and 6th today. I mean, if we just look at that as a return, are you satisfied with that? Was that kind of about what you could get from the two cars?
No, it's a mixed feeling. I think on the Carlos side, we did a pretty good job. Carlos did a good job. We applied the strategy, and it went pretty well that we finished 3 seconds behind Norris, not so far away of Lewis. And I think on this side, was okay. That on the Charles side, it's not the case. That we didn't take the right decision about the strategy, and we lose a couple of points like this and position. That it's a shame. It's a mistake. We have to understand why we didn't have a clear picture about the strategy before the race and why we were hesitating on the pit wall. I think we are not probably the only one, but it was not so clear for us, and we made clearly a mistake.
Yeah, I was going to say, some other teams looked like they were trying to make a one-stop work and then jumped quite early away from that. So at which point did you realise, actually, we've gone too far?
But if you start with 1 and then you switch to 2, it's too late, because that you are managing at the beginning of the race and you are losing time. And so. But it's probably will happen that we had the 2 options and we took the wrong decision.
Where do you think Charles could have finished then with the 2-stop strategy kind of that most others went for?
I don't have a crystal ball, but he was in front of Carlos, that we could imagine to do something similar. Now to know if we are able to fight with Norris, it's another story. But I don't want to make this kind of extrapolation to see what's happened if that it's behind us. Now we have to understand why we made the mistake, not what's happened if.
Well, I think, though, overall, you just about outscore Mercedes, or at least matched their score with 4th and 6th versus 2nd and 7th. Trying to do very quick maths here. But it's more consistency, isn't it, from the team? We haven't had a weekend for a long time where we've had to come and say, oh, you were nowhere near the podium places. You've been consistently fighting for those spots, haven't you, now?
Yeah, I think that one lap pace is okay, and it was okay the last 6 or 7 races now. That perhaps a bit more difficult in Qatar, but the conditions were extreme. But we were okay in Monza, in Singapore, even in Suzuka. We were not far away. This weekend we were in pole. I think on one lap it's okay. On the long stint sometimes we are struggling more. But I think today it's not a matter of race pace. The race pace was okay. If you compare the race pace of Carlos, quality race, I think it's equal. It's more that we made a mistake on charts.
Well, I'll let you go and do the debrief, but thanks for letting us know.
Thank you.
Wow, he said it twice, Chris.
He wanted to reiterate it, didn't he? He was clear that, no, we got this wrong. And I think that's the first time that I've heard him be like, our strategy was wrong. We weren't clear on the pit wall. I don't know why we were dallying about it, to use an English term, I guess. And we need to work that out. But normally he's kind of been a bit defensive. He's like, it's not that clear when you make decisions. There's normally more to it. And you do hear Vasseur kind of defend the team. And not so much today. So I think, this will be an interesting debrief he was heading off to.
Yeah. Speaking of heading off, you're going to go get Max Verstappen, aren't you?
I am indeed. So
how much time? You got to go? Or?
Not quite yet. He's in the driver's press conference right now, and then I'm going to walk with him back to his Red Bull hospitality unit. What
you got for him?
I'm going to ask him about winning for the 50th time, if that was, and if it means anything to him in a sense. But it's putting him right up there with the most successful ever, and how stressful it actually was, because we were getting excited.
And how many has he won this season, including sprint? 20?
It's unbelievable. Well, Christian Horner in that clip thought he'd won 50 in a year, didn't he? So he was getting ahead of himself. But yeah, it could have been. He's been so successful.
So what it feels like in the team, I'm sure.
So he's like the fourth driver to reach 50 victories. Hamilton, Schumacher, Vettel, and who I think had 51 or something.
Yep, and then Verstappen. He's just ahead of Prost.
There you go.
Wow.
Well, we got just a little over a minute left, guys. Any final thoughts from everybody? Jonathan?
Yeah, McLaren are back. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every track, isn't it? They're strong. Also, not back, but this race is going nowhere, is it? This is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
what a weekend
clearly.
we've had here.
Hey, did we ever hear a final number?
432,000, which is 8,000 shy over the weekend of last year.
That's fine.
They said, Bobby Epstein said to me a few weeks ago, we're going for better, not bigger this year.
Yeah.
We want to set the foundations to go bigger a year later. So I think they did that.
Dave O'Neill? Oh, I forgot he didn't have his headset.
He's got to put his head on.
A great weekend, and again, great time spending with you guys. Appreciate that.
Thanks for your input.
Brilliant input, by the way. Just something we would never get.
Right.
Looking forward to Mexico.
Yeah, there you go.
Definitely. And Mexico is a high-altitude track. Brazil poses its own challenges. And then we have Vegas, and I don't even have the words based on what I'm learning about Vegas. And then it's off to Abu Dhabi, and voila.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Of course, you can hear our next show, which will be with Chris Medland, Wheel to Wheel, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, y'all. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Happy trails.